Oh, freedom! Oh, freedom! Oh, freedom over me. And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free.
And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free.
Olivia, what are you getting into? Oh, go on now. Hush, darling. And your dancing skills have gotten so much better, I must say.
May I cut it? Excuse me.
Of course.
Hello, my dear.
Oh, wow.
How are you enjoying yourself?
Oh, my goodness.
Loving it.
Don't tell him
That's what I like to hear.
that it ain't to the
Well, I have moments, you know, I'm a little spinning myself. Why don't we just spin you out there?
Thank you so much, my dear.
Of course. Lovely, my dear.
Come over here.
Are you so
I wasn't sure how old I was. Slaves weren't allowed to know their birthdays. My brothers and sisters and I worked in the big house where the master lived.
Sing something, William.
Happy birthday to me.
It is December 18th, 1830, and this is the Barrett family plantation just 10 miles from Louisa County, Virginia, where me, my parents, and my brothers and sisters all served under the master, Master John Barrett. Master John Barrett was a former mayor of Richmond. He had 4 sons, Charles, Williams, John, and Strawn. And as the master grew gravely ill, our family wondered if he would ever submit to us our freedom papers, as he often promised he would.
Master Barrett will be joining us today with a gift and a surprise. And maybe if we're lucky, he'll make us all smile, not just the birthday girl.
Oh, hello, Master Barrett. Just in time for cake and tea.
Don't just stand there gaping. Get him a chair.
You do look well, Mr. Barrett. Good to see you, sir.
Excuse me, sir. Out of my way.
Well,
Is it true, Master Barrett, you brought me heavenly gifts of sashes and silk?
No, he's only just come down. Get warmed up, Master Barrett. Martha, brew some tea and tell Louis to put on some more wood.
It's a mighty fine party you're throwing here, my friend. I have to tell you that much.
I did. Oh,
Much obliged. That's a mighty pretty dress you have on there.
Yes, sir.
Did you sew it yourself?
No, sir. My mama done sew on all my clothes.
Well, my mother sews all my trousers. One leg shorter than the other. I have to get me a house miss just like her.
my friend, you got nothing but a piece of pie to your name. You're not going to get a fine slave girl like that on a piece of pie.
My father lines up 10 or 15 as a slave women for me to choose from. I shall have no problem.
Robinette! Come here, girl. Robinette, where are your manners?
I shall look for it, sir.
Now there's one I think you can afford. She's gonna make a fine house pet someday. And she's from good stock, too.
Excuse me, sir. I was looking for my littlest one.
that's my mama. And my sister Robinette. And my brother Louis. my sister Martha. I had 4 sisters, Jane, Mary, Robinette, and Martha, and 3 brothers, Edwards, John, and Louis.
Of course, dear ones. Well, I was sitting in my bed thinking, how should we amuse ourselves? When I got it into my head that we should go to the magic show in Richmond. Do you really like the idea?
Of course, what a wonderful idea.
Mrs. Barrett?
Well, if everyone behaves themselves.
When can we go tomorrow? Do you really mean it, Grandfather?
I do.
He's got 160 acres, and he's a good and decent man.
I don't care what he's got. He's got no business with you.
You got no business talking to that man, you hear?
Mama gone.
You're just jealous, because I be the missus' favorite, and the master's always looking at me to do something for him.
That's what I'm afraid of, child. Now you watch your tongue and keep your distance.
Oh, but
I drew this for you to make you feel better.
Oh, I will treasure it.
You've always been very good to my family, sir. You are forever in our prayers.
Now. Listen here. Master Barrett, you have come down to cheer us all out of a dreary state. So please, let us think on happier thoughts.
How about another song?
Oh, yes.
That was
That's a wonderful idea.
Master had always been good to my family.
But our mother knew that would change.
It was not my fortune to be long under my mother's care, but she is very vivid in my memory.
I would gather my children around me and Henry upon my knee, and pointing out to yonder trees, I would say to them, my children, as yonder leaves are stripped from the trees of the forest, so are the children of the slaves swept away by the hands of cruel tyrants.
I was then young, but I well recollect the sadness upon my mother's countenance and her mournful words, which were well impressed upon our youthful minds.
Mothers of the North, as you gaze upon the fair forms of your idolized little ones, just pause for a moment. How would you feel if you knew that at any time the will of a tyrant might forever separate your children from your embrace? I love the Lord, he heard my cry. I love the Lord, he heard my cry.
One morning, the master called me and Mama.
As he was about to expire, he sent for Henry and me to come to his bedside, and we ran with beating hearts and highly elated feelings, never doubting in the least that he would confer upon us our freedom.
We had both expected that we would be set free when the master died. We climbed up the wide staircase. The master lay in bed with only his head above the quilt. He is very ill.
He beckoned us to come closer.
You make a good plowboy or gardener, Henry. You're a good worker. I'm giving you to my son William. You must obey him. Be an honest boy, never tell an untruth.
I nodded, but I didn't say thank you. That wouldn't have been a lie. And Mama taught me never to lie.
Later that day, I watched a bird soar high above the trees. Free bird, happy bird.
Thus the old gentleman deceived us and raised expectations in our youthful minds, which were doomed to be overthrown.
Whilst Master William prayed earnestly to God to protect his prophets, we prayed to God to keep us with our families.
Upon the death of our old master, his property was inherited by his 4 sons, so the slave and all of their property was divided equally amongst them.
As such, Henry and his siblings were separated from their mother and father, which was the most severe trial they had ever endured.
I was then 15 years of age, but it is as present in my mind as if yesterday's sun had shone upon that dreadful morning.
Mama, the dogs are barking. They're gone now, get busy. Oh, now, go! We dearly miss your father, Master William. Please accept our condolences.
Henry, son, it's time.
Sir, now I implore you, he is my youngest child. Please do not separate me from my youngest child.
Worry not, your son will be in good care.
No, I beg you, please. I beg you, sir, I implore you in God's name. No, don't
Now you knew it. This arrangement could not be for
Oh, God, no, please. Master William, I beg you. Don't take
The
me
time of
back.
slaveholder regards not the bond between slave children and their mother or father,
but rather makes the division based on the money value they possess. Indeed, the common expression is.
Don't take him.
It was not until Ma had begged most piteously that she was allowed to give one last embrace to Henry before parting with him.
All of my children were inherited by the other 3 sons, except Henry, who was taken by Master William to work in a tobacco factory, and Martha, who Master William kept as his keepness.
Mama, do I?
Hush now. You'll be schooled, well-traveled, free to work inside their home. I won't hold you back, girl.
Thus Henry's mother watched all her children be ripped away from her, like those leaves on an autumn tree.
This kind of torture is 1,000 times more barbaric and cruel than that of a whip, which lacerates the back, but those scars fade.
The pangs which lacerate the soul of a parent only grow deeper and more piercing with time. Sweet rain of sorrow falling on no one, as love is left behind by life's relentless passing, an endless story of broken heroes and dreams that crumble like castles in the wind.
a bridge of sorrow that lead us nowhere, a night as empty as the promise of tomorrow.
Echoes of memory falling upon me, a foolish heart no man could ever win.
A bridge of sorrow that leads us nowhere, a night as empty as the promise of tomorrow.
Lost in illusion, taunted by reasons torn between a world that is and all that might have been.
A bridge of sorrow that leads us nowhere. A night as empty as a promise of tomorrow. Lost in illusion, tempted by reasons, torn between the world that is and all that might have been.
Now listen, Henry. My father left me a special charge to take good care of you, and I shall endeavor to perform his wishes. Now, if you behave well, I will take good care of you and give you money to spend.
Is this the boy?
Yes, sir.
Come here, boy. All right, come here. This boy's, tell me, what's your name, boy? Don't you hear me, boy?
They call him Henry.
You his sister?
No, sir, just sold together.
Can't he talk for himself?
Yes, sir. Normally he talked with Storm. The thing is, his mom and sisters were sold away from him, and I reckon he's just fearful some.
Sir, my late father raised the young Henry. He is a very smart boy, and he must never be whipped.
Everybody, this boy's a good-looking color, portly and strong. He is a good worker. He has never been abused. What bid do I have for this strong young boy?
Two people were bidding against each other for me, and I sure was worried.
There were tears just streaming down young Henry's face because being sold to some man will make separation from his mama.
500, 500, 500 going once, 500 going twice, 525, 525 going once, 525 going twice, 525 sold, the paddle 312.
Well,
How old are you?
Don't know for sure.
How many of your shoes?
They hurt. I gotta stretch them out.
They beat you? Come on, you can tell me.
First chance I get, I'm gonna be free.
You better stop that talk about no free.
Free is how I'm always gonna be. The only thing I learned about that day is lots of crying. When they took me away from my mama, that's something I never forget. You just take a tobacco leaf and twist it.
This talent here is gonna make you free. And if you're smart, it'll make you rich someday. I'm Mr. Wilson Gregory.
I'm Henry.
Wilson Gregory was my first overseer. He was a colored man.
He's generally considered a shrewd and sensible man.
Wilson Gregory was very kind to me indeed. He gave me boardings and lodgings in his own house.
Wilson Gregory acted as a bookkeeper to Master William, and he was in good favor with all the merchants in the city, all the folks that knew Henry.
I instructed Henry as to how to judge the qualities of tobacco. See now, my master promised to set his people free when he died too.
It doesn't quite turn out that way.
Watch your tongue now, you hear me?
My master told me to die, 'cause the devil don't want him and the Lord don't have him. You was too poor to be here. Why don't you work in the house?
My master is my father. And when all the girls in the big house had suitors and beaux coming to see them, they would ask for me instead. So they decided to get rid of me right away. They stripped me down to my bones to be bit off and looked at. So
Don't go and worry about the past now. We got work to finish here.
Well, after my master died, his family took his papers, his will and whatnot, and all he had, what's that word again?
Bequeathed.
Bequeathed. Yes, and he burned them. I had a penny for every tale of the lost freedom papers.
Amen.
Watch your tongue about your master now, or else they gonna boil you alive before they skin you alive, huh? Now come on, let's get this work done.
Yes, sir.
Wilson Gregory keenly advised me to learn and observe the tobacco business. I therefore did and became very good at my job.
As time went by, Mr. Gregory took ill, and after his lamented death, we were placed underneath the care of the most cruelest man I ever knew.
A man named Stephen Bennett, who had a wooden leg.
He done crept up behind us to listen behind our backs.
Yeah, but that wooden leg betrayed him every time.
Here he comes. I reckon he can smell it when you're not working.
Do not tear that tobacco leaf, boy! What's my name, boy?
Master Bennett.
I didn't hear you.
Master Bennett.
If you didn't work, Master Bennett would beat you double.
Now listen, hear me good. You do your work as you should. Your master you obey, or else the price you will pay.
I will be the finest man. The name is Henry Brown. Finest worker I will be till I taste freedom and liberty.
Twist that, tobacco, twist that, twist tobacco, twist that, twist tobacco.
Now listen to me, Lord. I give my son to your care. I kneel upon the ground. I beg you, please hear my prayer.
He will be the finest man. The name is Henry Brown. Finest worker he will be till he tastes freedom and liberty. Twist that, tobacco, twist that. Tobacco, twist that, tobacco, twist that, tobacco.
I cannot forfeit life. I cannot forfeit freedom. I cannot give my mind. I must find strength and beat them.
I was born a slave, they say, a tyrant's wish I must obey. They can take my body now, but freedom's mine someday, somehow.
Twist that, tobacco, 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 twist that, tobacco. They can take my body now, but freedom's mine someday, somehow.
Henry had now been in the city of Richmond for about 2 years, during which time, not having seen his mother, his feelings were very much tried by the separation, which he had to endure.
I missed severely her welcoming smile, and I began to feel if I was truly alone in this world. Worst of all, I could console myself with no hope. Not even that I'd ever see my beloved parents again.
One day, Henry met Nancy, a distant beauty who was out shopping for her mistress.
May I carry your heavy load, miss?
You from around here?
No, ma'am, I've just come from a long way in search for my family.
My name is Nancy. We walked and talked and agreed to meet again.
They started to see each other and things started to happen.
I felt like singing! Woo! But slaves wouldn't dare sing in the streets, so I just hummed all the way home.
Looking to start a new life.
Looking for you.
I've seen you there.
Crossing my way.
And I'm wondering
if you'll talk to me today. Where have you been? I've been looking for you. Walk with me today. Tomorrow's not ours to say.
how we can both dream. Dreams can become ours. Thoughts cannot disturb. Hold fast to every hour.
Come now, come with me now. Forget all of your cares.
See what is before us. Let's go. Let us explore us.
Where have you been? I've been looking for you. Walk with me today. Tomorrow's not ours to say. Tomorrow's not ours to say.
Come now, come with me now. Forget all of your cares. Let's see what is before us. Let's go. Let us explore us.
Where have you been? I've been looking for you.
Walk with me today. Tomorrow's not ours to say. Tomorrow's not ours to
See, now I heard that Henry is thinking of entering a matrimonial state.
Henry has formed an acquaintance with that young woman, Nancy.
She belongs to Master Lee, the clerk at the bank.
You seem to be a very pious man.
Looks like you really got a whiff of him. Oh, good afternoon, Miss Hazel.
Oh, good afternoon, Sugar.
How goes it now?
Oh, all right, bless.
Miss Hazel, I got a question.
Yes, honey.
So why is it you ain't never got married or had no children yet?
Well, I suppose it's because one bad experience was enough for me. You see, my master, he comes to me one day and he says, I pays big money for you and Rufus, this big colored fella, but he was a real bully now. So he says, I put you to live with Rufus so the two of you can give me some chillers.
So, you got no children, Miss Hazel?
Well, see, My master's a decent enough fella, you understand, but he tried to force that Rufus upon me. Let's just say the good Lord gonna have to forgive this here colored woman and find someone else, excuse me, and go on and find somebody else to replenish the earth. You understand what I'm saying?
We had made it up to get married, but it was necessary in the first place to obtain our master's permission, as we could do nothing without their consent.
I therefore went to Master Lee and made known to him my request and my wishes. He told me he never meant to sell Nancy, and if my master promised to never sell me, I might be able to marry her.
He promised faithfully that he would not sell Henry and pretended to entertain the extreme horror of separating families.
He gave me a note to give to my master, and months later, after they discussed the matter over, with much deliberation and patience and waiting, I was able to ask Nancy to be my wife.
When our masters agreed, we were married.
Oh, it's a great day. It's a great day.
Guess what? Henry is taking a notion to marry.
Hey there, Miss Hazel, I got an announcement to make.
Yeah, but from that grin on your face, I can show guess good.
We got our master's permission and we can move in together.
Oh, well, congratulations are in order then.
Oh, yeah. Congratulations.
Get yourself a new bruiser. You're gonna be a new bruiser. Get yourself a new bruiser. Get ready to jump the broom.
Hotspur, we gotta get old John McDowell to preach the ceremony.
Brother McDowell!
Oh, yes, I heard it. It's a solemn and sacred day.
Yes.
A solemn and a sacred day.
Sacred day.
She's gonna be a white balloon, yeah. She's gonna be with child soon, yeah. Gonna dance the moon, a beautiful bride. Gonna dance the moon and stay by her side. Time to knock and hitch the merry horse and buggy ride. She's gonna be a white balloon, yeah. She's gonna be with child soon, yeah. She's gonna dance the moon, a beautiful bride.
She's gonna dance the moon and stay by her side.
Do you want this woman?
Yes, sir, Preacher McDowell.
Do you want this boy?
Yes, sir, I do, sir.
Well, then. Go on and jump the broom then.
And that's all there was to the marrying. Soon there was a little baby. And another and another.
Go on now, you done enough.
They lived together even though they had different masters.
Henry knew they were lucky, but Nancy was worried.
I was still the property of Mr. Lee, but from the apparent sincerity of his promises to us, we felt confident that he would not separate us.
They had not, however, been married above 12 months when Mr. Lee's conscientious scruples vanished.
He eventually sold me to a rather mean and cruel-spirited Mr. and Mrs. Colquitt.
Taking his money tonight. I'm gonna leave his house with his curtains, his rugs, his piano, and probably his shoes. He's the most unluckiest man in Gambling I've ever met my entire life. I can't wait to take him.
Well, it is time for me to fleece you now, sir. No dice, my fellow.
Well, you better just cash in your chips.
Well, I call spade spade.
He is as cocky as the king of spades.
There's nothing but a sleight of hand, my friends. Nothing but a sleight of hand.
Let's see what we have here.
Nancy, drinks for all.
A toast to your success, Mr. Lee. A toast. 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 Toast.
Toast.
Toast.
Those Nancy's manners are too refined for a slave.
Has she not performed her duties? I've witnessed her keen attention to your every whim.
It's an air of pride I find troubling.
Huh. How much did the Colquitt estate bequeath his son?
The sum of $1,000, and he wants to buy Nancy for $450. We've considered your proposal very carefully, Henry.
Your expectations are excessive in every way.
No, I have worked too hard and fought too long, and now you want me to take all the risk while you take all the profit.
Sir,
No! Upon the receipt of the $50, I will make up the price.
Which would prevent your wife and family from getting sold away from you.
Now, the bad news, you must yourself hire a house for your wife and furnish them with everything they need.
We remind you, Henry, that you are in no position to bargain with us.
We ask to only continue serving both of our masters together.
Look, we don't make the rules, and you are too ambitious.
Is ambition a virtue amongst slave owners, but a sin amongst slaves?
How much more provocation am I to endure from you? The more license we give you, the more you take.
Henry, if you won't accept our proposal, we simply will find someone who will.
Forgive me, Mrs. Lee. I forgot my place.
That Henry is a pernicious force of manipulation.
There is nothing more deviant than the mind of a Negro man.
God,
Here,
help me a bad
toast.
hand, my friends.
I believe it is Henry who's overplaying his hand.
And he has just played his last card.
Well, I want money, and money I will have. I must have money, 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 money. I will have money, 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 money. You understand? Money, 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 money makes the world go round. You really just have to get on board. I'm saying
money, 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 money. We're in debt. Money, 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 money. My bad. Money, 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 money. Don't you fret for a penny, a shilling, or a pound. It's not easy for me to say. They've no worries, they never have to pay. Henry takes, he doesn't know his place. I'm not losing faith.
now hear me. Money, 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 money. He must know. Money, 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 money doesn't grow. Money, 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 money on trees you go. Really cannot be undersold. Try to see that. Money, 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 money. Don't you see? Money, 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 money. Nothing's free. Money, 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 money. Henry, can't you see it's business? It's just business. And business must
Henry was struck with astonishment to think that this man, in one day, could exhibit himself in two such different characters.
A few hours ago, filled with love and kindness, and now a monster's tyrant.
So Henry paid Mr. Lee for the hire of his wife regularly, whenever he asked for it, whether it was owed to him or not. And yet Mr. Lee seemed still bent on robbing him more thoroughly than he had the previous day.
One pleasant morning in the month of August, 1848, just as me and my family were about to set the table and have breakfast, the master called and said he wanted some more money today.
But I would have told him no, Henry. I wouldn't be sitting here pretending to be thinking about him and his family's money trouble. I would have turned him down flat. What are we working for, Henry? Another season of tobacco farming? Working ourselves to death so they can richer? The wives will work different heights? I mean, we can't even eat or feed the kids.
Nancy, I am leaving this place and you're coming with me.
I ain't getting on no horse in shining armor.
But sir, you know I don't make enough to support this deal anymore. It takes nearly all that I make to pay for my wife's hire, to keep us in meat and clothes. The rent of our house, our ties to our master, and if anything I've made anything in advance, I've paid it to you. Sir, what more can I do?
Well, Henry, you can always get yourself another wife. You need not trouble yourself with this one.
A man must protect what is rightfully his and what God has placed before him.
That's as much ingratitude as I can take from you, boy.
But sir, I do not wish for another wife, but the one whom I've loved for so long. Those that God hath joined together, let no man put asunder.
Henry, I am counting on you. You know how much Master Lee and I have done for you.
You always look more at home, darling, when you're up to no good.
Well, I know how not to spoil my colors.
I can make him no answer. All he kept saying was, I want more money, and money I will have. Then I hear the master tear out of the room with a loud noise, and in the other room a trader man who's looking to buy.
Huh? I'm afraid Master Lee will sell our children. Master Lee has lost a great deal of money, and I'm afraid he'll sell our children, Henry.
Hear me now, Nancy. God is still looking on.
Their hearts were so full that neither of them could eat any breakfast, and they mutually embraced each other as it might be their last meeting.
He left the house and went off to his daily labor.
Followed by my children who called after me to come home soon.
His heart was filled with deep anguish, knowing that awful calamity was not only possible, but a highly probable occurrence.
Now, I'm sorry. It's done. There's no point in going on about it.
But she's a good breeder, and her kids are good and obedient.
I'm sorry. I already signed the bill of sale. There's nothing more that can be done about it. No point in going on.
Henry worked really hard in the field to try to forget what Nancy told him. And in August of 1848, Nancy Brown's master sold her and their children. She was pregnant with their fourth child.
Hey, you've got to go away.
What happened? What'd you hear?
Your wife and children were just sold at the slave market.
No! I couldn't move. Couldn't think.
Henry twisted tobacco leaves as his heart twisted in his chest.
Twist that, tobacco, twist that, tobacco, twist that, tobacco, twist that, tobacco, twist, twist, tobacco, twist that, tobacco, twist, twist, tobacco, twist that, twist, twist, tobacco, twist that, twist, twist, tobacco.
Gotta get me out, breathing
good to them that hate you. How can we twist that tobacco, twist that tobacco, twist that, twist tobacco, twist that, twist tobacco.
Gotta find my children, I gotta try.
Yeah.
They promised me my wife, another lie.
Yeah. Love your enemies, they say to me. Do good to them that hate you. How can we twist that tobacco, twist that tobacco, twist that, twist, twist tobacco, twist that, twist, twist tobacco. We are the soldiers in the army. We've got to stop and teach the world for now. We've got to hold up the blood-stained banner. We've got to hold it up until we die. Oh, we are soldiers. We gotta stop and teach the world for now.
When the day had ended, Henry endeavored to get a little rest. The heavy weight of grief on his mind barely permitted him to sleep.
Many schemes for the redemption of his wife and child crossed his mind, and when the morning sun arose, he attempted to go back to his master's house to ask him one more time to purchase back his family.
Henry beseeched his master with tears in his eyes, but he did not succeed in moving the unyielding heart of Master Lee.
Henry's agony was now complete. She with whom he had traveled the journey of life and the dear little pledges that God had given them must be separated from him forever, and he must continue desolate and alone in the world.
Far away under the North Carolina swamp, under the scorching rays of a hot sun, they were to toil without the care of a husband or father.
I endure such agony! Shall I just stand aside while they are driven by the tyrant tribe?
So he is a slave. He must stay. The laws of men gives him no power to amend his condition. It shuts up every avenue of hope.
But thanks be to God, there is a law of heaven which the laws of men cannot control.
At lunchtime, Henry walked towards the center of town. There was a large group of 350 slaves gathered. Their owner shouted at them,
"Go on, get in there!"
This is the approach of a gang of slaves, amounting to 350 in number. And certain in the midst of men like them came to obtain one last parting look.
March with ropes about our necks and staples on our arms, a number of wagons loaded with little children of many different families rent the air with their shrieks and cries and vain endeavors to resist the separation which was thus forced upon us.
But just in that moment, what should I now see but right in front of the wagon, a young child pitifully calling out toward me.
Father! Father!
It was my eldest child. That glance of agony, may God spare me from ever enduring again. My eyes then caught my precious Nancy. I seized hold of her hand.
He went with me about 4 miles, hand in hand. Both our hearts were so overpowered with feeling that we could say nothing. And at last, when we were obliged to part,
Our tongues were only able to say, "We shall yet meet in heaven.
We shall yet meet in heaven. Mothers of the North, as you gaze upon the forms of your many cherished little ones ripped away as in a storm. Mothers of the South, let not your words go out, that you stood and witnessed without care and never heard our shouts. Hear the sighing of the poor, the midnight sighing of those meek and those you snatched and seized, the children of God's trustees. Mothers of the North, as you gaze upon the forms of your many cherished little ones, away as in a storm.
Henry wiped a tear from his eye, for Nancy too was gone.
He couldn't sing anymore. He couldn't even hum.
He went to work, and that night ate his supper, and then went to bed.
I miss severely hope. I tried to think of happy times. But all I could see were those carts carrying away everyone I loved. I knew I'd never see my family again.
Many weeks passed. One morning, Henry heard singing. A bird flew out of a tree into the open sky, and Henry thought about being free.
But how?
As he lifted the crate, he knew the answer.
Henry had for a long while been a member of the church choir in Richmond, but he began strongly to suspect the Christianity of the slave-holding church members and hesitated much about maintaining his connection with the church.
Got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. In his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. In his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. In his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands.
The suspicion of the slave-dealing church members kept Henry absent from his church until Christmas Day in the year 1848.
This is the way the gentleman rides. Gallopy, 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 gallopy. This is the way the lady rides. Trick, trot, trick, trot, trick, trot, trick, trot. Here's this church, here's the steeple. Open the doors, here's the... If you don't come on, will you know the rhyme? Okay, let's play again. Know what? I'm bored. I don't want to play the game. But I want... Older sisters.
I am Reverend James Smith, minister of the church choir. I've been struggling with my role in a slaveholding congregation.
It seemed that my husband had demons haunting him, and I had to know what was troubling him.
We have to make some improvements.
Yes, of course. But moving from here, uprooting our children, escaping will not resolve anything.
The children need a place to play, fresh airs, preparing their minds for God.
Yes, better than all that book reading. I think we have to get back to simple truths, darling. Forget about all this intellectualism, this questioning.
The suspicion of the slave-dealing church members kept Henry absent from his church until Christmas Day in the year 1848.
This is the way the gentleman rides. Gallopy, 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 gallopy. This is the way the lady rides. Trick, trot, trick, trot, trick, trot, trick, trot. Here's this church, here's the steeple. Open the doors, here's look. If you don't come on, will you know the rhyme? Okay, let's play again. Know what? I'm bored. I don't want to play the game. But I want. Older sisters.
I am Reverend James Smith, minister of the church choir. I've been struggling with my role in a slaveholding congregation.
It seemed that my husband had demons haunting him, and I had to know what was troubling him.
We have to make some improvements.
Yes, of course. But moving from here, uprooting our children, escaping will not resolve anything.
The children need a place to play, fresh airs, preparing their minds for God.
Yes, better than all that book reading. I think we have to get back to simple truths, darling. Forget about all this intellectualism, this questioning.
Questioning God or questioning man? Which do you mean?
No. Well, yes, I think we ought to keep things simple.
Ignore our conscience? I'm sure the world would be a much better place if we just turned the other way.
Darling, you have been spending too much time up in the north, where life is a little more extreme.
Hear me now, my dear. I am overwhelmed with a sense of doing wrongly.
Yes, but this is no time for your doubts or to give up your preaching, your livelihood. How would we live?
By preaching and singing for the purpose of obtaining money and assisting those who buy and sell their fellow men. My prayers have awakened in me such passion. I have made up my mind. I will no longer be guilty of assisting slave dealers.
Darling, please pray. Don't be rash. God will make this clear as the noonday sun.
Well, if God can paint a sunrise, it can make a man feel small. But if God bestowed the gift of sight, then that sunrise is for all. My soul has kissed the soul of every person in this church. And it's true there's peace in finding God, but there's beauty in the search. And I refuse to stand by any longer. I refuse to knock down any man just to make some men feel stronger. I refuse to think that God has placed me here, to refuse to help a fallen man and succumb to mortal fear.
You've seen the blood of brothers spilt across this land we love, and that right and wrong is black and white. Yes, God's watching from above. But you see, to cease your sermons is to bring pain to me, your wife. And our children will go hungry. All they'll know is pain and strife. So be strong, for I must in my crusade will be strong. For
for God's will must be obeyed. And skin color never tells a man the way he should behave. Though I'm free, I know how it feels to be enslaved. I refuse to stand by any longer. I refuse to knock down any man just to make our children pay. I refuse to think that God has placed me here, to refuse to help a fallen man and succumb to mortal fear. I refuse. I refuse. I refuse. Hark the voice of Jesus calling, who will go and work today? Fields are wide and harvest waiting, who will bear the sheaves away? Loud and loud the Master calls you, rich reward he offers free. Who will answer gladly saying, here am I, send me, send me? Who gave you a master and a mistress?
God gave them to me.
Who says you must obey them?
God says I must.
Yes, he does. Slaves, obey your earthly masters with fear and trembling, fearing the Lord. Ephesians 6:5. Yes. How does God do all his work?
He always does it right.
What makes the crop so hard to grow now?
Sin makes it.
What makes you so lazy?
My wicked heart.
How do you know your heart is wicked?
I feel it every day.
Who teaches you so many wicked things?
The devil.
Satan has so filled your heart that you have lied to the Holy Spirit. I cannot continue. I kneel beside you here today. I kneel beside you and I pray. Let Jesus fill you with his love, abundant love from God above. Jesus kneels at the feet of slaves, their feet he lovingly does bathe. I stand before you, I'm just one man. I need your help to understand. Friends, for a long time now, I've been struggling with the feeling that I've been an imposter. My search for truth has revealed discoveries, thus my thoughts have been mired in confusion and doubt. My dear brethren, I can no longer adhere to a slaveholding Christianity, which has shaken my very core. And I stand before you now with the firm conviction that we are witnessing the most abominable conduct and the worst inclinations we've ever seen. And this slaveholding religion is a distraction. It is a distraction. It is the destruction of the image of God.
The devil has got a hold of you. Oh, sinner, hear and pray, Lord Jesus will take you in. You've gone astray, you cannot see, repent your wicked world of sin. The devil has got a hold of you. If you've gone astray, and you cannot see the way, you can hear him calling you, the sinner you can. Repent, resign yourself. You can't repent, resign yourself. If you've gone astray, and you cannot see the way, you can hear him calling you, oh sinner, you can.
Hold on
Negroes while you're at it.
You're about to make a mistake so big that your children will pay for it for generations to come.
Hold on just a little while longer.
A man who makes a mistake can repent. Forgiveness is never denied to us. But the man who hesitates to do the right thing when he knows it is wrong and does nothing has buried himself in himself and is as good as dead.
Hold on just a little while longer.
No, dear Reverend, it is you who is as good as dead for this heretical doctrine you are preaching here today.
Everything's gonna be alright.
This is a spiritual battle with evil, dear friends. Don't underestimate the power of evil to wreak havoc. None of us can escape the conclusion that as believers in Jesus Christ, we are members, all members of the family of God.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saves a wretch like me.
I once was lost, but now I'm found. I once was blind, but now I see.
All of God's children need to hold on. Just a little while. I said, hold on. Just a little while longer. Hold on. Just a little while longer. I said everything will be alright. Hold on. Freedom is coming. Hold on. Freedom is coming. Hold on. Oh, freedom. Everything's gonna be alright. Hold on. Freedom is coming. Hold on. Freedom is coming. Hold on. Freedom. Everything's gonna be alright. I said everything. I said everything. I said and I know that it will be all. It's gonna be alright.
I resolve never to sing again or to take part in the services of a pro-slavery church.
With your beautiful voice, praise the Lord.
With your beautiful voices, you could change the world.
I do not know what dark plan lies within you, dear husband, nor do I know what God has in store for me or your children. But I do know that God has offered us a new beginning.
Don't push away the hand of God.
Can I never escape him?
No. He is in everything, even a kiss.
But Father... Hush.
Henry, wait a moment.
Your sermon is over, is it not, sir?
I thought that you might want to talk to someone.
I thought you might want the same thing, sir.
You have me there. I know that your wife and children were sold.
Indeed.
Henry, I cannot imagine your pain.
Well, in your brand of religion, my pain is worth less than that of an animal.
In the eyes of God, all men are equal.
What do you offer me? Equality? I seek my freedom, and the Lord will be by my side. Reverend, I saw you looking for ways to slacken the burden of the Negro man. Sir, I've been praying fervently, and an idea has flashed across my mind.
Confess your sins, and I can offer you God's forgiveness.
I do not seek forgiveness.
Unburden yourself to the Lord, and you will be free.
Free is how I'm always going to be. I'm tired of being ashamed of who I am. So I've come up with the notion to convey myself as dry goods shipped to a free state.
Henry, to lock yourself up in a box for so long a period of time. It is not God's will for you to die, Henry. Death is not a reward.
I do not know if it's God's will for me to cross this terrain, but I do know it is the devil who puts fear in our hearts.
As your minister, I must advise caution and restraint.
And as my friend,
to heck with caution and restraint. Henry, I'll help you with the box. But you need to find someone to receive you on the other side. Soon. Soon.
Soon I will be done with the troubles of the world, troubles of the world, troubles of the world. Soon I will be done with the troubles of the world,
going home to live with God.
Soon I will be done with the troubles of the world, troubles of the world, troubles of the world. Soon I will be done with the troubles of the world,
Going home to live with God. God, no more. No more
weeping and wailing.
No more.
No more weeping and wailing.
Going home to live with God. God, no more.
Weeping and wailing. No more weeping and wailing.
No more.
No more weeping and wailing.
Going home to live with God.
After old Ned got such a terrible beating for praying to Master Time for freedom, he slipped up and went to the north. Then he writes back to Master Tom and he says, I was laying down, Master. I was getting up, Master. Meaning that he lay down when he wanted to. And he got up when he pleased to. Yes, sir. See, now that's the way to do it.
Sure is.
You're just getting here. I'm leaving. I'm leaving.
Where to?
Well, there's all kind of places he can go.
How he gonna eat?
We'll work.
Where he gonna get the work?
We're gonna give him some money from work.
How you gonna get this fortune?
Well, I will mail myself in a box to a place where there are no slaves.
What if you cough and someone hears you?
I'll cover my mouth and hold.
What about food and water?
Well, I will, well, I do have a little water here, and I have this here dowel to poke air into the box. Just trust me, I got a plan. All men should be free.
Henry, I never heard such talk in my life. You're not afraid to do such a thing?
All men are afraid to do something for the first time.
Yeah, but he who overcomes his fear, he'll find his reward.
I will have my freedom, or die in the attempt. I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could hold in my hands truth, love, and liberty. I wish I knew how to break free the chains that's holding me, and give my family a different world they could see. A promise of light and color, a promise of green hills and summers. Give me the chance, the one chance to be free. He'll never leave me alone. Seas of love he has sown. The promise of God above is love.
I wish I could share all that is, all the love that's in my heart. Remove the hate, the pain and fear that rips us all apart. I kneel beside you here today. I kneel with you and pray that we are friends today and all our yesterdays. A promise of light and color, promise of green hills and summers. Give me the chance, the one chance to be free. He'll never leave me alone. Seas of love he has sown. Promise of God above is love. A promise of light and color.
Promise of green hills and summers.
Give me the chance, the one chance to be free.
Now, Henry, you're gonna need a reason to stay home, or else the overseer boss gonna think you done run off.
You got that right.
Why don't you show him your sore hand?
It's not severe enough. I'll have to use this vitriol oil.
No, Henry, no, Henry, it'll burn right down to the bone.
Henry poured it on his hand. It burned right to the bone, just as James said.
Now the overseer boss gonna have to let you stay home. Oil and solace, bone and yield. I don't want to go that
that bad. Put your hand on that plow and hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your hands on that plow and hold on.
Samuel Smith was a shoemaker, storekeeper, and sometimes gambler, from whom Henry would purchase his provisions and of whom he had a favorable opinion.
Bread, cigar. There you go.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Ugh. Ugh. Henry.
Sir. You know, if I were free, I'd be able to do business such as you're doing.
Why? Your occupation as a tobacconist is a money-making endeavor. If you were free, you'd have no need to change professions.
Well, unfortunately, with regards to my master, obliging me to pay for my wife's hire, refusing to help me save my wife and children from being sold. Well, I have to say I've been meditating my escape ever since.
Henry, are you not afraid to speak to me about such matters?
May I speak freely?
Well, you show no inclination to do otherwise.
I've long imagined that you too believe that every man deserves a right to liberty.
Well, believe, yes, but realize, that's another story. And if you had my store, what would you do with it anyway, Henry?
I'd work hard. I'd work hard. I'd save every penny, and I'd buy my wife and children back.
And what if they wouldn't sell them?
I steal them. Selling man for slave just ain't right.
No, but that's the way it is, and that's the way it's always been, Henry.
I know what I see. I see a man who doesn't accept the world as it is.
Indeed. Henry, what agitation brings you here today?
Well, I've been meaning to ask you if you had any information on how I should proceed to escape into a free state. Now, I do have a little bit of money, and if you were to assist me, I'd pay you for so doing.
I felt the hand of God strike my soul. I'd come mighty close to going to hell in my lifetime. And now, I was going to do what's right. Now, I was starting to feel good. All right, listen, Henry. I may have some friends in Philadelphia that can help you, but you have much to risk on your journey to the north. How much money have you saved for this enterprise?
I have $166, and I could pay you half. God does not judge a man by his color. He judges a man by his heart.
I will help you to your freedom, and you will help me to mine.
Your freedom.
Not all bondage is in chains. I wish I could share all that is, all the love that's in my heart. Remove the hate, the pain and fear that rips us all apart. I wish I knew how to break free the chains that are holding me and Give my family a different world they could see. A promise of light and color, a promise of green hills and summers. Give me the chance, the one chance to be free. He'll never leave me alone. Seeds of love he has sown. Promise of God above is love. A promise of light and color, a promise of green hills and summers. Give me a chance, the one chance to be free.
So Samuel Smith agreed to send Henry to Philadelphia.
I attempted many shipments of slaves from Richmond to Philadelphia. I was soon caught and arrested. In December of 1849, I was sentenced to 6 1/2 years in the state penitentiary.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, and I am weak, and I am worn through my storm and through the night. Lead me on to that light. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me
The sun was not yet up when he arrived at the empty warehouse, as required by Reverend Smith.
He brought along a tool to make air holes, some biscuits, and some water. His only fear was to get caught.
You ready? No, sir. I pray for you. Now go on.
Reverend Smith drove to the station.
I beg your pardon, sir. Would you take heed of the care notice prescribed to this shipment?
Uh-huh.
He was pushed on his left side, then his right. He heard waves splashing.
This must be the steamboat to Washington, D.C.
But Henry was upside down. Blood rushed to his head, his face ached, and his eyes burned.
He thought his head would burst. He was resolved to conquer or die.
Soon he heard someone saying that they had traveled a long while and been standing there for nearly 2 hours.
I'm tired of standing.
Why don't we move this box so you can sit on it, sir?
I held my breath. I hope they weren't talking about my box.
He was pushed to his right, and then his left, and suddenly, right side up.
What do you think's in this box?
Mail, I guess, sir.
I am male, but not the kind they imagine.
The next place in which they arrived was the city of Washington, where Henry was taken off of a steamboat, placed on a wagon, and carried to the depot right side up with care.
Sir, I need some help with this crate to the wagon.
Just throw it off.
But sir, it's marked right side up with care. If I throw it off, I might break something.
It don't matter if you break everything in it. The railway company's able enough to pay for it.
No sooner were these words spoken, he began to tumble from the wagon, and falling on the end where his head was.
He could hear his neck give a crack, as if it had been snapped asunder, and he was knocked completely insensible.
There's no room for the box. It's going to have to come tomorrow by the luggage train.
The Lord had not yet forsaken me. For in answer to my earnest prayer, he saw fit that I be sent home.
But sir, this box came with the express, and it must be sent on.
We've now arrived in the port of Philadelphia.
Oh, my heart leaped for joy.
Sir, I've come to collect the shipment, shipped express from Richmond, Virginia.
Henry was then placed on a wagon and delivered to the home of James Miller McKim. We've been expecting this shipment.
Let us rap upon the box to see if he is alive. Is all right within?
Hello. All right.
Oh, our joy is so very great to see you all alive.
He's too weak by reason of confinement in that box.
Oh, he cannot stand. Fetch some water.
Yes, ma'am.
We've been anxiously awaiting you, Mr. Brown. May we render you some service?
We bid you you're welcome to your natural rights, sir.
He had risen as if from the dead, and he felt more than he could readily express.
I waited patiently. Yes. I waited patiently on the Lord.
Yes.
Amen.
Tyrants, remorseless, devoid of religion or any vestige of humanity, stood by the couch of his mother as he came into this world. Before he'd taken his first breath, they had forfeited his right to liberty.
At last, Henry had a birthday, March 30th, 1849, his first day of freedom.
And from that day on, he also had a middle name.
And everyone called him
Henry Box Brown.
The man who ships himself to freedom!
Well, I can't take no freedom train, but I'm gonna run on through the rain. No underground railroad can't move my feet, but I'm gonna use my voice to freedom speak.
They called him Henry Box Brown, was shipped from town to town. They nailed him down in a coffin, didn't get him down.
They called him Henry Box Brown, was shipped from town to town. They thought he must be dead, but finally he had fled.
I found a way to be mailed to the Freedom Lady. No need for an undertaker, no siree.
They called him Henry Box Brown, was shipped from town to town. They thought he must be dead, but finally he had fled.
He found a way to be for an undertaker. No siree.
What strength of spirit, what faith in freedom's brightness I felt in my soul was absolute delightness. This is the saga of Henry Bones Brown. May he grow rich in strength and in renown.
As he travels each and every town, they call him Henry Box Brown. Was shipped from town to town. They thought he must be dead, but finally he had found. I found a way to be mailed to the freedom lady. No need for an undertaker. No siree. No siree. 'Cause you see, I am free. Come on now.
Don't fret for Henry Box Brown. Don't get upset or frown. For I have finally found.
They found a way to bring mail to the freedom lady. No need for an undertaker. No siree. They call it Henry Box Brown. Or ship from town to town. They thought he must be dead, but finally he had fled. Was mailed to the freedom lady. Yes, siree.
And by, lo and behold, as they stood around, everyone hollered and shouted, hallelujah! They wondered. Henry popped up.
Because Henry Box Brown was shipped from town to town. They thought he must be dead, but finally he
Hi, my name is John Younger and I'm 12 years old. Not everybody knows the age of the human race, but everyone agrees that it is old enough to know better. Shirley Chisholm, first African-American woman elected to Congress.
Hi, my name is Cornelia Vidal Edwards, and I'm 15 years old. We will have to repent in this generation, not merely for the destructive words and actions of the bad people, but for the appalling silence of the good people. Martin Luther King Jr.
I'm 10 years old. The time has come for each human being on earth to learn to accept responsibility for the welfare of the entire human family. To awaken in the hearts of those who share this planet belonging, unity, and justice. All right. And I'm 10 years old. Close your eyes to racial differences and welcome all with the light of oneness. Abdul Baha.
Hi, my name is Zora Havercom and I'm 15 years old. When one sits in the hoop of the people, one must be responsible, because all of humanity is related, and the hurt of one is the hurt of all, and the honor of one is the honor of all. Buffalo Calf Women, Native American Scriptures.
Hi, my name is Lily Beal and I am 8 years old. As you slide down the banister of life, let the splinters never be pointing the wrong way. Jackie Gleason and the Honeymooners. In the future, I don't think there will be any racism, but people will still get on on each other's nerves. Whoopi Goldberg, comedian and actress.
We just made it in the hour and a half, everybody. Congratulations! I have something to give someone. So, for you, a workshop that we hope you'll breathe, stretch, and figure out with us. But stretch, breathe. I think we're going to